Hello everybody, and welcome to this Blender tutorial. In this tutorial you will learn how to batch rename multiple objects in Blender 2.8. This video is an introduction to the problem and a few notes, the personal usefulness of which will really depend on the context in which you use Blender. If you are watching this outside of the ConceptBay.net platform, then you can find the link to the core tutorial in the video description. Now, one thing you should be aware of is that in 2.8, Blender no longer uses the object groups. Instead, Blender now uses collections. And with that in mind, many of the existing scripts are no longer compatible with 2.8. So why would you need batch renaming? Well, everyone will have their own reasons, and in my particular case, I'm developing a game in an engine called App Game Kit Studio, which offers a handy little feature called object occlusion. It is a feature which allows the engine to stop drawing objects located outside or behind the camera view, which can potentially allow you as a developer to create detailed game levels with massive amounts of objects without sacrificing performance and maintaining a smooth FPS. If you take a look at the top left corner of the game, the second last line that says poly count is currently displaying the amount of polygons being rendered at once, and as I move my camera to certain places, that value changes to reflect how many objects are in the view. Now, it may look good, but these values are nowhere near optimum, and the reason being is that this entire level is actually one single OBJ file. The main caveat about this aforementioned object occlusion feature is that you have to import all of the objects separately, one at a time, which means that I cannot just select an entire level and export it as one single mesh as I have done here, since the engine will treat it as one single mesh and render it all at once. So if even a single vertex pops onto the screen, the engine will end up rendering the entire level mesh altogether. So I have to export all objects separately, but there's a bit of a problem. Blender at this point does not have any batch exporting features, so you have to either export it all at once and forfeit the benefits of object occlusion, or export each individual item manually, one mesh at a time. As a solution to this problem, a gentleman named BlinkOK on the Game Creators Forum has created his own little application which can take this single large OBJ mesh and break it up into separate objects. All that is required of you is to make sure that the level mesh is exported as groups and all the separate objects in your level follow a clear, predefined naming convention, which can be found in the included text file. Every object needs to have a specific prefix in its name, which his application detects and uses to export the individual models into the application app data folder as a separate standalone mesh. I have several levels, each consisting of about 400 objects, and I really don't feel all that fancy about renaming each and every object one by one, especially since I often like to use Blender's particle system to procedurally populate my levels with hundreds of environment decorations. So after a bit of research and playing around with the Python console in Blender, I have figured out how to rename multiple selected objects, and there are two methods. And now that we're familiarized with the problem, we can go ahead and move to the meat and potatoes of this tutorial.